Thanks for coming. We've got a really healthy turnout today, which is fantastic. Shows how many people are interested in supporting your children at home. Just a quick bit of housekeeping. If we do have a fire alarm, we don't have one scheduled, then we'll evacuate out to the AstroTurf, and I'll lead that. And just to let you know, we have some students from the secondary school visiting today. So the toilets that are normally reserved for adults on the first floor in the atrium are reserved for them. So there's a set of adult toilets, just one flight of stairs up on the second floor, if you can use those, please. So if you've not met me before, my name is Youles, and I'm the assistant head teacher, one of the assistant head teachers for the British primary section. I'm also in charge of the IPC, the International Primary Curriculum, and I can recognise some faces that came to the talk for that. I'm going to be talking through this morning how you can support your child at home in the IPC. Mr. Lee, who's up there at the back, if you give us a wave, he's our head of maths, and he'll be talking through how you can support your child at home in maths. And Miss Boyce is over here, and she'll be talking through how you can support in reading. Hopefully you've managed to grab yourself a whiteboard and pen and one of the Knowledge Organisers. I would like to promise that there wouldn't be a quiz, but I can't, because there's going to be a quiz. So let's start with a quick quiz. I've got 3 statements on the board. Hopefully you've got a partner. If not, if you can find someone to talk to, or you can get yourself in a trio. I want you to have a little think about whether these statements are true or false. And you can make a decision. So if you think A is true, you can just put A true. If you think it's false, you can put A false. So I'm going to give you maybe just 30 seconds to have a quick conversation with someone near you and make a choice. Off you go. By the way, if you're kinesthetic means moving, visual means seeing, and auditory is hearing. Oh, the pens are new. Oh my goodness, now's the quiz for me. Okay, we do have some more pens up there. Yeah, please. Are there some of the new pens? Do they have like a... Oh. Okay. Oh, shake it. There we go. Taylor Swift it. There we go. Okay, so I won't make us share our answers at this point, but I thought this was an interesting insight into learning. So A, there are different styles of learning. So some students learn by moving, some students learn by listening, and some students learn by seeing. It is false. It's just not true. It's probably the most common misconception that we've not been able to shake from education. It's been around for about 30 years, and it was based on 0 research. My perfect example for this would be if you also think we have moving, seeing, hearing, and we have olfactory, which means smell. We don't have people in the world that only learn through smell. There was no one in our school learning how to do long division by smelling long division and maths. We all learn in exactly the same way. There is some argument that people have preference in how they learn, but actually learning for every single person, wherever they are in the world, whatever age, happens in exactly the same way. So, number 2, students are engaged, motivated, and interested, so learning must be happening. False. Now, you could argue it's a trick question. If the students are not interested and engaged, then of course no learning can happen. So number 1, most important thing is we make sure our students have 100% of engagement in class, that they're listening, they're engaged in their studies. But actually it isn't a measure for learning. If a student is having a lot of fun doing something, or is busy doing something, it doesn't necessarily mean they're learning. For example, we could play a game now where we could add number bonds to 10, and we could throw a ball around the room and be catching it and running around and having a lot of fun. But I'm not learning anything, and neither are you, because you already know your number bonds to 10. So just through seeing engagement, it doesn't mean students are actually learning, and that's a really important part. C, Generous praise encourages learners to persist with hard tasks. False. Actually, praise is important, but students and us can spot false praise. If we overly praise things that they haven't had to work hard on, then actually they know that. We know that. And actually, praise needs to come from a point where we can actually see resilience and all those things that we have in our learner profile. But overly generous praise doesn't necessarily work. So, for example, in a lesson, if I ask my students, say, everybody put your whiteboard pens now, look this way, I'm not going to say, oh, that is absolutely amazing, fantastic, you've done a brilliant job there, Billy, putting your pen down, you're the best student ever. Because that's over-generous false praise, because actually they've just done what they should be doing, which is to put their pen down. If I see fantastic resilience and someone really approaching their learning in a way that I can see that they're sticking at it and they've managed to conquer something, then that praise is genuine. So these are 3 things, I think, myths in education that I think are interesting to think about, especially as we move into thinking about home learning. So, I don't know whether you've seen this at home. I've seen this at home with my own 2 children doing their homework. And what I want to talk about today really is that we're going to give you some strategies for engaging your children at home in reading, maths, and the IPC. But actually what we really want to stress today is that what we're not going to do, and what we're trying to move away from, is giving busy work or busy tasks, which is like drill, rote practice, where actually we might see them engaged, you might even see them motivated, or not, depending on the student, but it doesn't mean they're learning. And learning is the most important thing, and that's why we're all here. So this is the definition that I've shared before. We have our own school definition for learning, but this is one we talk about with our staff a lot. So learning is defined as a change in a long-term memory. That example I gave you, us doing our number bonds to 10, well, that's not a change in my long-term memory. I learned that a long, long, long time ago. And actually, what we're talking about today, there's a lot of good research for this. The EEF, which is one of the most established, well thought of research centres for education in the world, has done a lot of work on this. And actually there's a lot of studies here about practical strategies to support learning at home, which I won't go into great detail here, but I believe that we outline them in the letter that we sent out. So I just want to share with you an example of busy work. So when I started the school in 2022, our spelling homework looked much like this, with a spelling menu, and our students would go home and they would do things such as this, like a rainbow writing. Now, I knew that this was engaging. I think they quite like getting the different colour pens out, and I know that actually, as a parent, that I could see my son come home, get his spelling list out, sit, get the different colours and write the word out. But was any learning happening? You probably guessed, find out from the first 3 things. No, none. Actually, there is 0 research, 0 evidence whatsoever that rewriting the words in different colours helps your spelling. Not only that, but for example, maybe you'll learn the word thrall, and then you can spell it, and then you can ask the students, what does that mean? I have absolutely no idea. It's a really poor proxy for spelling. Similarly to look, say, cover, write. It can be helpful for short-term, quick rote recall, but it's too reliant on visual memory. If our instruction primarily staring at a word, closing our eyes to see it, or simply practicing a list of unrelated words, it's fighting the brain's natural learning process and misses the opportunity to build sturdy, sound, meaning spelling connections that lead to automatic spelling. We do this in school through read, write, ink, and our phonics. We carry this on into Key Stage 2 by using our sounds and syllables in class. And actually students building up a strong visual memory of words, which is called an orthographic map, and getting really strong statistical knowledge, so sort of knowing about spelling patterns like prefixes and suffixes. That's actually where we know the research lies. So what our message here today as we run into the practical ideas for the IPC is that what we don't want is to be giving our students busy work. By busy work, I mean things that will keep them busy, but no learning is happening. And the whole point of school and for home learning is for learning. That's what it's called. So how can we engage with our children at school? So there's two things here I think that have come back from the parent feedback that we've had. Firstly is, where can I find out what they're learning in school? So I'm going to run through some areas here that you'll find this information. And how can I foster purposeful learning that engages both their curiosity and our own? So firstly, what are they learning? Well, in the IPC, the International Primary Curriculum, they're learning international, it's about the world, ICT and computing, music, geography, history, art, physical education, design and technology, and science. We also have our reading lessons, we have our maths lessons, and we have our literacy lessons, and we have our specialists. Additionally, if you want that in more detail, on our website, and we'll send the link out with the slides after this, you will find there's a year group curriculum bank, and in every one, you'll see year one, you'll find an assessment or curriculum map that shows exactly what your children are learning in school throughout the entire year. Additionally, we send home a curriculum letter and a knowledge organizer, which is I'll be talking about more in a minute. This runs through what they're going to be doing throughout that whole unit for the 6 weeks. Here you can see an example of the curriculum map that actually breaks it down into the learning goals for the different units. And we send out our blog. I won't be checking, but just hands up. Who read the blog last week for their child in their class? Great, fantastic. So in the blog, it tells you exactly what they've been learning that week. It also tells you what they're going to be learning next week. So we have the big picture for the whole year. We have an outline of exactly what's going to happen over that unit, depending on the length. It could be 3 weeks, could be 7. We have weekly updates about what they're learning and what's coming up next. And of course, you can always ask your teachers if you're worried about a certain aspect of their learning. So there's lots of information there for you as parents to know exactly what's happening in school. Now, I know this has already been sent out, but I popped out some copies. If you didn't grab one, I'll have some at the door when you leave. I'm going to talk now, that was our sort of general discussion. I'm going to talk now about ways you can support your child in the IPC, in the International Primary Curriculum at Home. So the research shows the most important thing, the best bets that you can have as a parent to improve your child's academic chances in life are reading, reading, and reading. There is nothing more important than reading. I cannot stress that enough. Not just reading, getting your child to read widely about the world and fiction, but also, if your child is in year 6, it's not too late to still read with them and to take an interest and engage their curiosity and have those rich conversations. And the other thing that's really important is conceptual understanding, so understanding concepts. Now this part, we're not saying, that's over to you. This is what we're doing in school. All day, every day, we're working on this really hard. What I'm going to talk about now is ways that you can foster rich conversations and engage your students about this conceptual understanding of the learning of the areas that they're studying in school. So, I've given you an example here. Here's the Knowledge Organizer. So hopefully you've got a copy of that. If you haven't, we do have some on the table. Could you grab it, please? Because we're going to have a look at it. Now, these are sent home for every unit. We've worked really hard on these. Our teaching teams have looked at the unit that's coming up. This is for the Year 4 Shake It unit, which is solids, liquids, and gases. Essentially, pretty fundamental scientific concepts. And on here, our teaching teams have spent many hours thinking about what is the essential knowledge, what is the stuff, what are the concepts, what are the facts that our students have to know to be able to understand this unit. Now again, this knowledge organizer doesn't just go home, it's something we use in school. It's talked about with the students. They use it for quizzing, they use it for practice, they use it for checking, they use it for vocabulary. The reason we send it home is actually it gives you the best insight into what is happening in the unit, because this is it. This is the key stuff that they need to know. It also means that, as we know, we all fear, as my son does every day, what did you do at school today? I don't know. Do you remember anything? No. Right, I'm going to get the knowledge organizer out. Okay? So, okay, well, it says on here that he's in year 4. You're doing solids, mixtures, and gases. Oh, yeah, fine, we were dissolving stuff today. Ah, there we go. What's dissolving? And then we can start to have those rich conversations around the dinner table. So, my advice is this gets sent out in the letter, print it out. If you can't print it out, ask us, we'll give you a copy, stick it on the fridge, have it at home, leads to those rich conversations, and I'll talk through how you can have those conversations. So why is this so important? So for example, if we have key knowledge here, learn the names and locations of the continents in year 2. Why is that so important? We're not in a quiz, in a pub or bar. Why do they need to know that? Well, let's have a look. Here's our IPC map. So if we're going to learn the continents in year 2 for our Treasure Island, our mapping unit, let's have a look in year 3, where if they have that knowledge, that's going to help them. Well, active planet. Actually understanding the continents helps us understand continental drift and tectonic plates. It also helps in our Egyptian unit because they can locate Egypt. In year 4, they go to vanishing rainforests. They can know where those rainforests, like the Amazon, are from knowing the continents. Travel and tourism, again, knowing about why and how we travel around the world. The continents knowledge, again, comes in. Explorers, as they learn about the different explorers who made their way around the world. Continents, again. Year 5, building a village. Geography unit, continents. The history unit on the ancient Greeks, again, knowing the continents is really helpful. And I could go on, and also in here we've got rivers, the Mayans, and again, that one piece of knowledge there, if that's cemented, which we're working really hard on in school, that knowledge helps build. It's called the Matthew effect. You know one thing, it sits in your schema, that part of your brain, and then other facts and pieces of information start to stick to it and builds and builds and builds. If we have a student, as we're trying to discuss rivers around the world here, who hasn't learned that fact in year 2, then their conceptual understanding of that piece of knowledge is weak or not there, then it's going to make it even harder for them to keep getting better and better and better. So this is why the knowledge is so important. But again, we are teaching this in school. Knowledge underpins everything else we do. When we see skills, students being able to do something like map making in year 2, well, having the knowledge of the continents is the thing that's going to be able to help them to do that thing. Does anyone here play sports? Actually, I've been playing squash recently, and somebody said to me, your grip's wrong. You need to turn your racket a little bit this way. And actually, that's a little piece of knowledge. I've been playing squash for about 25 years. I didn't know that. I think they might have been lying to me because they've smashed me in every single game since. Okay. But actually knowing that, and I've slowly started to see myself get better because I'm able, my skill is getting better from that little piece of knowledge. I didn't know about turning the racket slightly at an angle. It's the same for learning for our students. Okay, quick quiz time. So, I'm going to give you 1 minute to revise using the knowledge organizer. See if you can pick out some of the key facts. And this is something that we do in class. You're going to pair up and you're going to test each other. So this is 1 minute quick revision thinking time. You might want to pick out some of the facts on there. And then at the end of the minute, I'm going to get you to turn the knowledge organizer over. And then one partner is going to have the knowledge organizer, and they're going to quiz you. They're going to ask you a couple of questions, and you can see if you can answer them. Okay? All right. Good luck. I'll put the timer on. Go. You've got 1 minute revision time. By the way, when your child is trying to think at home, don't talk over the top of them, because this is really annoying you now, isn't it? Me chatting when you're trying to concentrate. Okay. In your partner, can one of you choose to be A? I don't mind who, and then put your hand up who's A, partner A. Off you go. Put your hand up if you're A. Okay, so other partner, if you're B, put your hand up, please. Okay, B, can you turn your sheet over? And A, you get to quiz them. Ask them a question. Off you go. Okay. Did your partner get it right? I won't make you put your hands up. Okay, partner B, put your hand up. So we're going to switch over. The other person's going to put the sheet, and you're going to get to have your revenge. I mean, ask a question. Off you go. Okay, did they get it right? Okay. I'm very impressed. I can see some people cheering when they got it right. Now, this actually is a thing that we do in school. But look, there you go. There's one quick strategy that you can use at home. When you get the knowledge organizer out and you say, well, let's do a quick quiz. I'll give you some thinking time. I'm going to ask you some questions. Now, this doesn't give conceptual understanding. These are facts. We're working on the conceptual understanding in school. But there are some ways, actually, we can develop conceptual understanding as well. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Well, right. Yeah. Right. So that's why we've really, really carefully, we have hundreds of bits of information, loads of avenues we could go down when we design these units, this Shake It unit. The teachers have spent hours thinking about what is the absolute essential knowledge they need to be able to engage in this unit, and that's what's on that sheet. We don't allow the teachers just to download this from a random website. They have to think really carefully. So if it's on the sheet and it's a fact, like the boiling point, that's what you can quiz on. Well, okay, right. Yeah, sure. I mean, always. I think, look, if we could, to write a generic set of questions would be tricky. If you have, this is great. If you're engaging and you say to your teacher, hey, I also want to ask a quick question about the knowledge organizer, and you ask that question, the teacher will be able to answer it, and that's fantastic engagement, because then you can take that home. Okay, please turn the sheets over. Quiz number 2. Okay. No peeking. I will be checking for cheats. Okay, so we have some vocab on here. This is another really quick activity. We do it in school. But actually, can you match the vocabulary we have here with the definitions here? Off you go. You can talk to the person next to you. Which ones do you think? Okay, who thinks they managed to match some? Now you can self-check. This is another thing we do with our students a lot. So have a look at the sheet, see if you're correct. And you can mark it. Now, if I was doing this in class, I'd be wandering around between you now to check who knows. That's useful information for me as the teacher. Who got any right? Well done. Okay. So there's another quick activity you can do at home. We're doing it at school, but you can work through this vocabulary. And actually, this helps enable rich learning conversations at home, because actually we can then think about this around the dinner table. That's where our conversations at home normally happen. So we could connect this to home. When you're sitting at home, you might say, okay, have a look around as we're eating our dinner. Or, I know you're learning about solid liquids and gases. What gases are you going to find in our apartment? And knowing my son, I know what the first one he's going to write down would be. Well, we're thinking more science, okay? But he wouldn't be wrong, I guess, okay? So, I'm going to give you a quick quiz on that. How many can you think of? Think of your apartment. Where in your apartment will you find gases stored? I'm going to give you 15 seconds to write down as many as you can. Off you go. You can work in pairs to discuss it. Okay, anyone got any ideas, any answers for me? If you're looking around your kitchen, where might you find a gas? Yeah? Hot water, fantastic, yeah, and the kettle with the steam. Anyone else? Yes, the burning, so the hob. Here you go. Anyone get any of these? Anyone get aircon unit or the refrigerator? Okay. So that connection to home, those rich conversations, those things that actually you can give that insight and that world into your students, your child's learning and discussions are really powerful. Using the knowledge organizer. You can also connect other things to home. Looking at the sheet, what's that a good example of? Irreversible change. So you can show that. Show it in the morning. If you're making some toast, pop the bread in, ask them to try and reverse it. I did try that. My son got the knife and started scraping the... It's not reversed it. It's been a chemical change. Birthday cake, ice. Actually, grab some ice out the freezer if you want to show solids, liquids, and gases. There's lots of things you have. There's quick, rich, conceptual understanding conversations at home. Thinking about the other dinner conversations. I wish my dinner plate looked like this. My daughter's in year 2. She's learning We Are What We Eat. And every day she's come home and told me all the unhealthy things on my plate. Pointed out the different proteins in the fish that I should be having. And pointed out things I have been having that are healthy. And also, the other thing that's really important is play. Not just for our younger students, but for all students. Unstructured play is really important to a child's development. Right the way up. Until 15, the research shows. This isn't a real photo. My daughter wouldn't let me take a picture. As she was learning about healthy eating, she came home, and I could only find one with unhealthy snacks. She made a healthy eating dinner party with her teddies. She lined them all around. She sat there talking to them about the different fruits and proteins she was feeding them. Play is really important. Other connections to home. So if we're learning about the moon landing in year 5, 1969, July 3rd, I want to say. I'm going to check that fact. Do you have someone in your family who was alive at that time? Could you get your child to talk to them? Could you get your child to come up with a few questions for them? Where were they? What did they think will happen when the moon landing happened? There's a fantastic link to a real-life historical source. My mum was in a fish and chip shop in England eating chips, she told me. She didn't have anything else to say other than that. But still, there you go. I don't know if it's a rich historical source, but... And actually, if you really want to, there's other ways you can get into this. Maybe there's some little home science experiments you want to encourage. With the shaker unit, I just got my kids to get the ice out, and we watched it melt, and then we refroze it again. We put one piece on the balcony, one piece inside, and saw which one melted quicker. Let's plant it in year 3. Perhaps just all you're going to do for that unit is get them to get some seeds and the potting plant. Get them to plant it, get them to be responsible, thinking about those executive functions to come and water it and look after that plant, and then you can discuss the plant there. That's a really rich learning home opportunity. Explorers, Treasure Island, travel tourism, get the map out. Talk about where they've been in their life. Thinking about the different continents and countries they've travelled to with you. Those rich conversations, those windows in. Now, the other thing you can get them to do, which is a little bit more structured for the older students, is you can get them to reorganise the information. So maybe they want to take their knowledge organiser and create a poster or a mind map of the information on there. It's a really good way of connecting their learning and reinforcing their learning. And if you want to go deep in that, they can research curiosity. So if they're learning about space, but their real passion is to learn more about black holes, or about black holes as the universe's natural time machine, then you can do that. Maybe they want to research that. Maybe they could bring in a research project. Your teachers will be more than happy if they bring in some extra research about what they've been learning about. And that's something that can be encouraged. How else can you do that? Well, find related books. There's 2 really good websites here that find related topic books for what you're learning. Go to the library, go to Cave Books, get from our library, make sure they're reading about the subject. And maybe you can read with them and have those conversations. There's so many. We're in the golden age of non-fiction books. There's never been a better time for these fantastic non-fiction books. What about documentaries and videos? If you're learning about the moon landing, why not watch In the Shadow of the Moon? Probably the best documentary ever made about it. My son's learning about rainforests at the moment, so I found there was a David Attenborough Our Planet. That's our plan Saturday morning. We're going to watch it together and talk about the rainforests. I'm going to show my engagement in his learning by doing that. And we can also work on quick ideas of conceptual understanding with quick experiments. So, we get a quick experiment at home. I tried this last night. This is the messy reality. I did this with my kids last night, and then they argued and fell out and cried about who held the stopwatch. So here we go. Okay, so you're going to make a prediction. I'm going to drop the book and the piece of paper from the same height. What's your prediction? Are they going to accelerate and hit the floor at the same time? Or which one's going to hit the floor first? Can you write it on your whiteboard? What do you think? Which one's going to hit the floor first? I won't give out stopwatches. I don't want to see the arguments again. Okay? Show me. Let's have a look. What have you gone for? Sorry, well, you can shout it out. What have you gone for? Okay. Great. Tell the person next to you white. Anyone brave enough to share why? Friction? Yeah, what type of friction? Yeah. It would fall to line vacuum. So that special type of friction is called air resistance. Fantastic. Okay. So can I change the air resistance to make them accelerate at the same time? Yes. So actually there's quick little things that I did that last night as part of learning, and actually didn't take long. It was quite good fun until the tears started about the stopwatch. I'll rethink that. Okay. And then actually that led, we ended up watching the video of the first time they put Galileo's theory to the test in 1972 on the moon, when they dropped the hammer and the feather. And then we looked at the Brian Cox video where he drops it in a vacuum with no air, and saw how they landed at the same time. You also might be looking for like museums or things coming up. I noticed this week that in Tainan, in January, the Taipei Museum is going to host Egyptian year that they're studying in year 3. So I'm going to take my kids down to see that. My son learnt it last year, my daughter will learn it next year. What a rich opportunity for us to go and learn about it together. And the last thing I'll say is don't forget your children are working incredibly hard every day in school to learn this content. The home is not where your child's learning needs to happen. It's a place to build connections, have rich conversations, encourage curiosities, and make connections. Okay. I will hand over to Mr. Lee now, who will talk through the maths. But thank you. You've been a great audience. I hope the quizzing wasn't too hard.
Hello, good morning. I'm going to attempt to move away from the stand, but if I have to dash back, then it's because I'm trying to multitask and hold lots of things. So good morning, my name is Chris Lee. I'm the maths coordinator for the British Primary section. And to quote Mr. Youles, it's really important at home that children read, asterisks with a bit of maths, if you so choose to. So I'm going to share some strategies here that you may or may not like to try at home to encourage some maths practice. I'm going to first talk about maths as a subject and maths as a life skill. There's a really important link between the two. I'm then going to go on to talk about some more informal opportunities you might like to create at home for practicing maths. I'm going to separate that into maths through talk and maths through play. And then I'm going to go on to, let's say, some more formal ideas for practicing mathematics. And I'm going to demonstrate a few screen-based platforms that we have, but also talk about some other types of formal maths that you might like to, if you choose to, create opportunities to practice maths at home. My list of ideas, if you like, is not exhaustive. I haven't got every single idea, but hopefully enough just to interest you so that you could perhaps try things to see what work, be creative, make some tweaks to see what really interests your own children at home. I think a message that I'd like to share is that I would recommend little and often works best, that it should never be forced, it should be fun, and if it seems forced, then stop and don't continue. And also that it should be a balance of on-screen and off-screen, because there's a whole theme with what we're trying to create a culture of at school, not having too much screen time. And I think that works for academic practice as much as it does for your free time on a screen, to have a break and to limit it. But I'm not going to hide the fact that we do have some really good on-screen resources, okay? But it goes back to the idea, little and often works best. Okay, so this was me, as a 12-year-old boy in an all-boys school in the north of England, where the weather was pretty much like this every single day of the year. And I was in a maths lesson. I do remember this vividly. And I was doing algebra with my teacher, Mr. Proctor. And I think it was quadratic equations, those of you who might remember doing that. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't quite see the point. I didn't quite see the relevance of algebra to my life. And I put my hand up and said, Mr. Proctor, What's the use of this? As politely as possible, what is the use of this? And all he said was something along the lines of, now's not the time, you seem distracted, get back to your work. And I feel like Mr. Proctor missed an opportunity to really share with me and my peers the true meaning of mathematics in our lives. And the question, why is maths a school subject, I'm going to answer. And the reason is because it's an incredibly important subject to give us incredibly important life skills. Okay, so quiz for you, challenge for you. On your whiteboards, and there are some spares at the back if you didn't manage to get one, could you please write down as many reasons as you can for why we learn maths in school? And think about your day-to-day lives, how you use maths every single day or regularly. It could be that you're sat on the sofa just creating math sums and you're just solving them on your whiteboards or on your, on a piece of paper. If that's what you do, great. But I'm also thinking about real uses of maths. Think about numbers in your lives. Think about other types of maths in your life. So I'll give you about a minute. Write as many things down as you can. Okay. Get ready to show your boards. This is what I do with the children. Put your board to your chin before we begin. So put your board on your chin to show me that you're ready, but don't show me your board just yet. And turn around. Oh, brilliant. Excellent. Turn around your boards to show me in 3, 2, 1. Okay, reveal. And I'm going to try my best to... This is where... Okay, so we've got, ideas to do with shopping around and timings, calculating discounts, paying for things, buying things, being logical. I really like that one. Over here. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Being social, eating out, clock and times, counting things, really good. Try and get over here. Definitely to do with money, catering. Brilliant. Okay, loads of great ideas. Don't rub them off. And I'm going to share with you. I think you probably got more than I have. So my excuse is I didn't have enough space on the screen. Okay, so maths, I hope you're sold on this. It's really important. Sometimes it's tricky for students to think, why are we doing this? But as much as we can in school, we try to bring it to life and make links so that they can see the purpose. Maths is great for making us financially literate. Hopefully we can use our arithmetic skills to calculate things and to budget and hopefully to save as well. Maths is really good to measure things in the real world. A couple of examples there. And another example is measuring time. Time is quite a tricky concept because it works in different chunks of amounts. It works in groups of 12, 60, 24, and other different groups depending on the month. People who follow sport and think about times in sport, it comes up in our hobbies when we're kind of enjoying sport. Think about the time that a swimmer might get for completing 100 meters freestyle. That's actually quite a complicated time when it ends the race. And to understand that is tricky, but it could be as simple as just being able to read the clock. A very, very important skill. Maths gives us the opportunity to understand position and direction so we can navigate the local and national and international area. It helps us to read data and statistics in the real world so we can make informed choices about what we eat and where we go. Maths is also a transdisciplinary subject. So in school, we can use and apply maths in other areas of the curriculum, but as you can see, there are links to those subjects out of school too. So maths really has a purpose through other subjects. And I think one of the most important ones is that maths is a great opportunity to practice problem solving. And we're talking about executive functioning in the way that we're revamping home learning. One of the most difficult types of executive functions, a higher order executive function, is problem solving. It's really difficult. And so maths gives us a great opportunity in school to practice that, but also at home to practice that too. And it could be that you're sat around the table, you're going on a trip, let's say to Japan for a week, you've got this amount of money, you'd like to go and see these places, eat this food. How do we get around? What do we want to see? Let's plan it together. But it doesn't have to be that complex. It could be simply, this is the amount of pocket money you have. How could we make the most of it when we go to the 7-Eleven? What could you buy? What change would you get? Or simply, oh, you want to rearrange your bedroom. Okay, right, you want to put the furniture in a different combination. Let's work together to see what works. Okay, that really doesn't work because the bed's blocking the door. But do you know what? We tried it and it didn't work. great approach to problem solving. That's what we probably grew up being called trial and error. We tend to call it trial and improvement these days. But opportunities around the home to problem solve, I think there are lots of them. And also to model with your children that problems are solved better when you sit down together and you break them into small steps and you communicate. How much of an important life skill that is. And I think lots of you probably do this all the time without realizing it. Central to my message about the use of maths at home, how you could practice maths at home, is just to share what we do as educators, is that we try to model a growth mindset. And what that means is that even if something's really difficult, and we're adults just the same as teachers, we also find things difficult, it's really important that we model that it's okay. And we're not going to get too upset, we're going to try and be resilient, we're going to keep trying, and we're going to have a glass half full attitude. Okay, so this is a nice growth mindset diagram. It talks about the steps that you could go up, I think, psychologically when you're thinking about a skill. Let's pick time, because it's notoriously quite a difficult concept for children to master, particularly telling the time on an analog clock. Okay, so have a look at this analog clock, and could you please write down for me the time in a digital format, so like the red clock just at the back there, although don't copy that time. And I'd like you to show me, the digital format for this time. There's possibly two answers here, if you zoom in on the minute hand. And as soon as you've done, just flash it up, but try and write it as big as possible. I think I've learnt I can't read some of your boards, it's my fault. Okay, so what is that time in digital format? Okay, looking around, hold up your boards when you're ready, if you want to. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, I'll go, So I didn't stipulate 24 or 12 hour, thank you very much. So it could either be, I've got four answers then, so it could be 00 or 0:15, 12:15, or 0:16, 12:16, I think it is, potentially the 16. Okay, so you get the idea. Now, could you just quickly rub off that answer and replace it with what you might like to guess is a common misconception when children see a time like that on an analog clock. Okay, this, just to put it into context, is a year 2 skill. So telling the time to the quarter to the hour, quarter past the hour. What do you think is commonly said by children when we see them this exact layout on an analog clock? Anyone like to write it down and flash it out? Flash it up? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so it's because we're so confident it's 12:15 or 12:16, but lots of you sharing that, 3 o'clock, right? Or we get that, and you can understand why. Just switching around, there are misconception about what the hands are showing. And so we can practice our time skills later, but the point I'm making is that the skill stays the same, but our attitude towards it can vary so much. And as adults, modeling that to children, that it doesn't matter if it's hard, it's okay, makes things so much easier. And children aren't naturally born like that. It has to be modeled for them to achieve a growth mindset. So have a look at the different states of mind. I can't do it, I won't do it. It's going to be quite tricky then, if you stay on those steps. Wait a minute, I want to do it, so how do I do it? We could model the learning with our questioning. I'm going to try and do it. I can do it. I will do it. And then guess what? Yes, I did it. And yet it's still the same concept that we're looking at. It's still mixing up 12:15 with 3 o'clock. Okay, but it's so much easier if we believe in ourselves. Now, some things are really tricky, and they can make us feel like we can't do things. But as adults, as the experienced humans in the house, we can model that to children and make their experiences so much easier. Okay, so that's a message to share. Okay, I'm going to go on to some informal ideas that you might like to try at home. And I'm going to say, first of all, talking about maths in brackets, because I think there's a chance that if you mention the word maths, it might put children off. Okay, and obviously got lots of maths lovers in the room and in school, but some children maybe really don't want to. Okay, so maybe just don't mention the word maths, okay? But you can talk about it. Okay, a couple of ideas for our younger learners. And, it could be that you've done the laundry and you've got some items of clothing on the beds and you're pairing up socks. Okay, we're counting our skip counting in twos. Oh, there's an odd sock. Okay, so, I wonder how many are there. Okay, I've got 2 pairs of socks, so that's double 2, so we can practice our doubles too. Not making it too formal, and perhaps we're coming out with the information first and see if they join in. And naturally, lots of children would like to join in with helping. They like to help, okay? Singing. Lots of learners tune into learning so much easier when song is involved. When there's a melody or a jingle or there's a rhyme, things stick in our heads. 5 little ducks went out one day over the hills and far away. Mother duck said, quack, 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 but only 4 little ducks came back. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 little ducks went out. You can continue the next verse. And okay, that's a simple skill, but we are practicing one less. We're practicing simple counting. And there are lots of maths songs that really hook children in. And song for all subjects, I truly believe in. Okay, recognizing numbers and maths in the world around us. Okay. Oh, I've forgotten my glasses. Could you help me to read the number plate on that bus? I just need to make sure it's the... Oh, okay, 0207, thank you. How do you say that? It's been such a long time since I was at school. 207, what's that? Oh, 207. Oh, thank you. Get them to teach you. You pretend you've forgotten. They absolutely love correcting you, especially because they feel like we correct them all the time. And we can do it with shapes too. Oh, this hat. Oh, when I was at school, we called it what is it? A cone. Brilliant. Okay, you're just linking in. Keep it short and keep it real. Okay, you're going out to a cafe, or you're just sat around, there's some change at home. Would you like to help me to count the coins? We could put them into bags of 100. Okay, thank you. Or we're looking at the menu in Starbucks and we're sat down, so there's a bit more time. Remember when you're queuing up, there's less time for this, but which is the most expensive thing on the menu? Can you tell me? What about the cheapest thing? Well, how much change would we have? I've only got a 500 NT note, so how much change would it be if we bought 2 of these hot chocolates? That kind of thing, okay? And then they can go and perhaps pay for it as a responsibility and they can get involved. How long is it till Christmas? Dad, how long is it till Christmas? I get this every day at the moment. And I said, right, we're going to make this into an opportunity. So we look at the calendar, not for too long, but we talk about the rows being groups of 7, and we count in 7s, and we try our best to figure out how many days it is until Christmas, and a bit of support needed, but that's fine. My son's really interested in asking me, so I'm hooking into his interests, and that's really important because it's more meaningful. Number of days in the months. Okay, that's also an opportunity to practice that. Telling the time, using measuring skills, really, really important. You mentioned that. And I think when we talk about maths, or secretly, keep it brief, keep it visible, keep it what they can see, I think, so there's more meaning. Keep it child-initiated if possible, so it's what they want to talk about, but you can instigate and just test the water to see if they respond, and get them to teach you. I can't remember. Can you help me? Oh, thank you. They love it. Okay, so another informal chance to practice maths. Play with, don't say the word, maths. And there's loads of opportunities to play with maths. And as Mr. Youles said, play is so, so important. Okay, but making it more informal just makes it fun. And that's really, really important too. Okay, so I don't know if any of you in school, this was banned in our school. We weren't allowed to play it because it was distracting us from our learning in the 1990s. So we call it pontoon in the UK. Blackjack, 21. So how many numbers can you get to get to 21? 21's ideal. Go over, then you're out. And what a great chance to practice mental arithmetic with your children. Okay, and the playing cards are generally pictorial. So they've got the pictures of the suits and the different the clubs here, so they can reinforce their understanding of the digits value by the number of pictures there. Mini games at home, especially where points are scored. Right, I'm going to beat you today, come on. And then we're going to have a bit of a competitive element, so there'll be mini basketball, and we can tot up the score. You could do it, or perhaps they could do it, with a bit of support, or independently. And it's competitive, so it's really motivating. Hands up, those of you who ever played Snakes and Ladders. Okay, a confident hand. Absolutely love Snakes and Ladders. If it's not your thing, it's fine. Hands up if you've ever played it with 2 dice. Okay, give it a try. It goes faster. And it's also a great chance to practice a certain skill I'll mention now. 3 dice. I take it nobody's practiced it with 3 dice then. It goes really fast. But it's a brilliant way to practice maths. Okay, have a look at the 2 dice icons there. Just switching them to those white dice. A great way to practice bonding numbers together, as we say, quickly recalling what combinations of numbers make a memorable total, like 10. We can also bond numbers to any total, like 9 or 6. Okay, 6 and 4, 5 and 5. And it's that quick recall of number facts that help children to be confident and that frees up their working memory to apply to other tasks in lessons, but also in their daily lives. And that's what we do. Lots of practice off in school, but out of school is possible too. You can also buy on Shopee and likes of Shopee different types of dice. Those of you who've played more complicated board games might recognize dice like this. This is what we call a D10 dice because it's got 10 sides. The other one's a D6. And so we've got 10 digits, including the 0. If you play with a couple of those, it's really challenging. And also removing the dots, so they really have to understand the meaning of the numbers. Mental arithmetic. Mental arithmetic's really, really important. I liken it to not getting enough exercise. Your muscles will fade. If you don't use mental arithmetic as much as you can, your sharpness will also fade, your mental maths. Okay, so if it's possible to do it in your head, try it in your head. And then there's more complicated board games, Monopoly. Hands up if you love Monopoly. The weather was like this all the time in northern England, so we used to stay in and play Monopoly all the time. And of course, dice, and it's got use of money, and it's very motivating for lots of children. Pass the pigs is another favourite of mine. You roll the pigs, and the combination of where the pigs land, depending on what formation they're in, scores you different points, and kids love it. And there are some really rare combinations where the pig sort of lands on its nose, and you get 60 points. And wow, it's a rare throw. So yeah, that's another idea. So yeah, games basically. Keep it flowing. Okay, don't labour it. Okay, right, come on, 5 and 3. What does it make? Right, let's draw it on a piece of paper. Don't labour it. I think just, okay, that makes 8. I'll help you with that one. That's 8. Roll again. Keep it flowing. And it sounds really obvious, but choose games they like. I'm not standing here and saying we have to play Snakes and Ladders at home. I'm not saying that, because it might not be your thing and it might not be their thing. So choose things that are motivating and that they like. Okay, so they are the more informal ideas. I'm now going to go on to talk about some more formal opportunities, and I'm going to demo a few of them. So you'll recognize a few of these apps and platforms, like TTRS, we call it, Times Table Rockstars, and My iMaths as well, which we previously set more formally for homework, and now it's, of course, a parental choice. And I'll demonstrate some of those. In the middle, there are some free resources that I'm just sharing. White Rose is an award-winning mathematical body that we do use the resources of quite a lot. And they provide some free resources for parents, including the Maths with Michael series, where there's explanations about how maths is taught these days, which is different to when we were in school. Number Blocks is an award-winning show which is written, I think it's in collaboration with the BBC, but there's a body called the NCETM, which is a mathematical body, but that's behind the production of the program. It's award-winning. It's for younger children, fluency of numbers to about 20, and it's pretty much free on YouTube. And on the right in green, lovers of readers, maybe maths is not all in their top 3, top 5 subjects. Well, a book about maths then. Puzzle books about maths, fact books about maths. Okay, there might be sports lovers and only want to do sport. I only go to school because of PE. It's only my thing. I don't like anything else. Okay, well, let's get a book about sport and all the facts inside there, including number facts. And then some puzzles at the bottom two. The left one is a bit more formal. 10-minute maths, births of maths. If you choose to purchase a booklet like that, it can support what children are learning at home. But it's broken into little and often 10-minute chunks and answers at the back usually to help speed up your checking. Okay, so I'm going to quickly talk about My iMaths, first of all. So Mr. Youles mentioned the weekly blogs. This is an example from actually last week's Year 4 blog. As you can see, Learning in Maths this week, which was last week, and Learning in Maths next week, which is actually now this week. And I'll have a look at the bottom one. So let's say we're at home, we want to have a little opportunity to practice some maths connected to what your children are learning in school. In year 4, I can see that we're going to be learning multiplying and dividing by 10 and 100. So jumping our digits along to make them 10 times greater and 100 times greater and smaller. Look at the blog and then try and find the skill on my iMaths. Okay, so that's an idea. I'll just show you how that works. Okay, so in your children's blue reading diaries, they should have all the logins for these platforms. And some of you will know this already. So I won't go through the exact login process. It's pretty self-explanatory. But as they log in, there are 2 layers of logins. After the first login, they then go to the right side, as you can see here, My Portal. And we'll have a little look, example profile here. So we're looking at multiplying and dividing by 10 and 100. Okay, now when you get into the portal, it's very much user-friendly. The interface is great for children. And you can see there are lots of tasks. I've actually set all the maths for the whole year for each year group. So you can do this at your own pace at home. You can search for the maths you want to search for. And as we go through, we can see, hopefully I can find, there we go, multiplying by 10 and 100. There we go. I think the other one is dividing by 10 and 100 in a separate task. When you click in, you can see there are 2 options. There's the lesson option on the right and the homework option on the left. I strongly recommend that, especially doing it with the children, they go through the lesson first. It reminds them, or perhaps pre-teaches them, if you're doing it in advance, how this skill works, so they can master it with more competence. And it's a click, a page at a time, step by step, to teach you and to teach them how it works. So we're going to go to the number 1 circle first, and it says, well, how can we multiply 9 by 10? Let's click the next in the bottom right. When 9's multiplied by 10, it moves 1 place value column to the left. And the 9 goes into the machine and comes out in the 10s column. We must remember to put a 0 into the 1s column to fill the gap. We call this a placeholder. Otherwise, it looks a bit strange there and lonely in the 10s column. So the 0 goes in. 9 times 10 is 90. Okay, and there you see there's no more next options, so I can click down to the 2nd circle and do the next stage of the lesson. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes to do the lesson, and you can come out of it when you feel ready as well. And then back into the other screen where you've got the option for the homework, you can then have a try. And there's usually 2 pages of questions that then practice that particular skill. Okay. And you can see here, it's just some fluency practice. So recall and practice 6 times 10. I'm on the spot here. Lots of people watching me. And then there's an option to mark it. I only did 2, but you can see it gives some instant feedback to you and the children, which I think is really important, so you can understand where you've gone right or wrong. And then there's another sheet usually. This is more on the dividing by 10 and 100. Okay. So that's my iMaths. I hope that's pretty clear. As I said, I've set the maths for your children's year groups for the whole year. And so it's at your own pace that you can go and find what you need, really. But we're in November, okay, and this has not been since the start of the year. So a couple of months have passed and lots of maths has already been taught. So if you wanted to, you could choose to go back and practice some previously taught skills from this year group. Okay, so what I'm showing here, and these slides will be shared, are the long-term overviews for each year group, and just the order that we teach each maths skill in each year group. Okay, now, and I'll share these slides. So going to year 4, for example, we just had a look at a year 4 skill, and there's year 5, and then year 6. Okay, so Mr. Youles was talking about the curriculum maps. These are fully updated now on the website. And in terms of the mathematics, they break into the small steps for each maths unit, the order that we teach those skills, importantly, progressively in that order. And you can see here that we've got the long-term overview. So you're looking at both. Well, that was the skill we just looked at on my iMaths. And we're about there in term 1. So towards Christmas, on track. But of course, we've finished place value, and we finished addition and subtraction. So we might choose to go back to place value and just practice those skills to try and just recall that knowledge, which is also really good for our learning, to try and remember things that we've already learnt from a while ago. And there's the place value column in the curriculum map. So we can then use the information in those small steps, which pretty much equate to individual lessons, pretty much. Usually we do a step per lesson. And we can choose those skills and again search for those on my iMaths. Okay, now if you have any questions about finding something on my iMaths, please speak to your children's class teachers, and ultimately if they're not sure about anything, they'll ask me and I can either directly return to you or go via your class teacher. Okay, so I hope that's clear on how to use my iMaths. The other two platforms before I finish are I'm going to show you on Numbots and Times Table Rockstars. And these are award-winning resources. We love award-winning resources. They are used in so many, not only British schools, but it's growing hugely in Australia and New Zealand at the moment as tools that really support children's number confidence and number development. Numbots focuses on addition and subtraction fluency from 0 to 100. And it's recalling things like number bonds to 10, 5 and 5, 8 and 2, but also knowing about different addition facts so we can therefore subtract more easily, and I'll show you. And TTRS is basically times tables from 2 to 12, but with the reverse division facts too. It's really important that children practice these. But there is some stretch in there for children who have mastered all of that. You can actually practice I don't know if many of you know the 17 times table, for example. So, there's definitely opportunities for children who are flying through their tables. Okay, so very, very quickly. This is what Numbots looks like. And again, in the blue reading diaries, you will see the login information. We've got story mode and challenge mode. Challenge mode pretty much gives the children the choice every time as to what they practice. And so they might choose something sometimes that's a bit too easy for them just to collect their coins that they can then spend. It's less likely they'll do that with story mode because it progressively builds their skills and they need to sort of graduate from a game to be able to get to the next one. So I'll just show you how that works. When they graduate from a game, they collect coins and they can spend these coins. And the context of this game is a rusty robot who really wants to have a shiny body, and the more coins he collects, the better materials he can buy. He can upgrade to a gold body eventually, but he starts on rust. Okay, so I'll just show you. So for example, we've got this, which is a practice of what we call a part-whole model. So it's reinforcing the idea that any number can be split into parts, and often those parts are very useful to know because we can use them in different ways. How many nuts? Well, I can see 3. I can see 3 and 1 makes 4. Double 1. Practicing my doubles. Doubles are really important. And we've got 2 and 1 makes 3. Phew, on the spot there. And I've managed to get myself 2 stars. You need 2 stars to pass a level, and then you can move on to the next one. If they do it super fast, they get 3 stars and basically get more coins for that. But if they get 1 star, they need to practice again, and that's really important so they get more fluent. Okay, so that's Numbots. It's great. We include this in our daily routines little and often from reception to year 3. But any practice at home, little and often, also would help. And Times Table Rockstars. When you log in, again, logins in the blue reading diaries, you get some different options. I'm not going to go through them all, but let's say, for example, single player. There's a great link there where it explains the game types. Okay, but there are different. Basically, Gig is a monthly quiz that we'll generally do in school. Garage and Studio, in the context of Rockstars, are fun games, but they quiz children on all times tables from 2 to 12. So it's a little bit more randomized, although there's an algorithm that really checks their ability level, so it won't give anything too tricky. Sound check is the equivalent of what we have a times table test in the UK, which we don't do here, although we track it in a bit more detail, really. But that's the equivalent platform for that. But I really like jamming. Jamming is because you can choose the tables. And if it's grayed out like that, it's because the children are too fast. So they can't choose anything that they can already do really well. let's say we're going to practice the 2s and the 5s. I can choose multiplication only, division only, or a mix. I'll go for multiplication only, and 10 questions. And it might be great that you could take turns perhaps at home and do this and see if you can accidentally get it wrong, and then your children can teach you how to do it. We click play. And because it's a rock star theme, the children collect coins to basically buy new guitars in a little shop. When they run out of coins, they then have to play more to get coins. So it's very motivating. And it looks a bit like this. Okay, so they can type in their answers. And let's say, I'm not sure, and I think it's an 18, but I'm going to type in 16, and I don't get it right. What it will do is will flash up with the correct answer. And so children just then, it just reminds them for next time. You can see there. There's also an option for those musical lovers to put some music on. It goes from soft rock to rock and roll, and I think there's some heavy metal on there, so it's not everyone's cup of tea, but at a low volume perhaps it can help some children to focus. Okay, so TTRS, little and often, can be really helpful, and that's all we have time for, I'm afraid. So thank you very much for listening, and again I will share these slides with you. Thank you.
Hello. Hello everyone, my name is Katherine Boyce. I am the reading coordinator here at TES and the EAL coordinator as well. I feel like some of my job has already been done by Mr. Youles by saying read, read, read at home. But I'm going to be talking a little bit more about reading at our school and then how to support at home. Okay, so reading, one of the most important skills in our everyday life. Almost everything that we do, when we're scrolling on our phones, when we're reading bus timetables, it involves reading, and maths with timetables. And through stories, children develop culturally, learning more about the world, emotionally, learning about different scenarios between friends so that they can better understand what's going on between them and friends at school. They develop socially, spiritually, intellectually, all of these things through stories. It supports them in all of the aspects of language, speaking, listening, and their writing as well, with their grammar knowledge and improving their vocabulary. Children learn to read before they then read to learn, like we do as adults. When we're trying to find out something new, we read about it. It opens up their worlds. So, at TES, we teach reading as a whole class, meaning that we choose stories, we choose texts that are really rich that we can share with the whole class and we can explore together. And we focus on some different aspects. We focus on phonics, we focus on fluency, we try and build up their reading stamina through extended reads, and then we also do close reads where we look really, really closely at the text and we start to think about why the author has made those particular choices. And we start to really interrogate it. I'm going to skip quickly through these parts. Our policy is on our website and it's also in our curriculum handbook in terms of what we believe about the teaching of reading. And you can also access our reading curriculum maps for each year group. We have a curriculum map that looks like this with the key objectives for each year group. Again, available via the website. Okay, so what does it make? What do you need to become a strong reader? Well, you need decoding knowledge, which is phonics. You need to be able to break down a word into its sounds and then blend those together to read the word accurately. Once you have a good knowledge of those sounds that make up the English language, and there are a lot of them, then you start to develop your fluency, being able to read more and more fluently. It takes a while to build this. And if a child is still at the point where they are having to break down each individual word and they're not reading very fluently, we need to support them with their comprehension of that. Then there's vocabulary, building your vocabulary and your understanding. Once you're able to read the word, what does it mean? Your reasoning, we're going to go more into each of these. So why things are happening, how it links to the plot points. structural knowledge of how different texts are set out in different genres, such as a recipe, an information text, a chapter book, and then also having some comprehension strategies so that children know what to do to help themselves if they're finding something particularly tricky. Okay, so starting with phonics. I am not the phonics lead in the school. Our phonics lead is Miss Amy Goddard, who is our Year 1 teacher. And if you have any questions about phonics, she is the best person to put your questions towards. Now, but with phonics, children from in reception, Year 1 and Year 2 have daily phonics lessons. So this is where they learn the sounds that make up the English language, and how certain letters together make sounds. We call these special friends. So for instance, we might have the letter O and the letter W. Sometimes it makes an O blow the snow sound. Sometimes it makes an owl brown cow sound. And we start to slowly, explicitly teach all of these sounds so that they can successfully break down words and read them. When your child has phonics lessons, and going into Year 3, 4, 5, and 6, some children continue to have phonics lessons, either because they need a little bit more time or they may be new to our school, they should be taking home a phonics book that looks like this. One of the main ways that you can support them with their phonics, their decoding, is reading that book with them at home. And when they struggle with a word, we say Fred talk. This little frog here, his name is Fred, and he only speaks in sounds. So when we say Fred talk to children, that means break it down into its sounds. Don't just guess it, break it down, do it systematically. We talk about special friends. That's when 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 letters together can make a special sound when they're next to each other. We don't get children to memorize words or use flashcards just to say, memorize the shape of the word. We try and get them to understand why a word makes the sounds that it does. Why do we say it that way? Why do we read it that way? On the website, there are QR codes, I believe, for the different phonics sounds that you can also use for some phonics revision. But the main thing would be is reading those stories with your child, letting them read it to you, because they will have practiced this at school, and it's a good chance for them to show off. Okay, at the back when you leave, I have a list of all the sounds that we explicitly teach through our phonics program. We split these into the set 1, set 2, and set 3. Set 1 is the first set that they learn, going into set 2 and set 3. And when you are reading storybooks that you might have at home or from the library, another thing that you can do is you can challenge your child to try and spot any of the special friends that they know. This is Room on the Broom. The title of Room on the Broom has a lot of ooh, poo at the zoo special friends in it. You can also see the owl in down, owl brown cow. We've got a ch sound in which is 3 letters making one sound. So see if they can spot some of these special friends. They might not know all of them yet. They might not have been taught all of them yet. But it helps them to link in some of their knowledge and see if they can spot some of those patterns of why words make those sounds. Okay. Once a child is more confident with their phonics, then we start to build more and more on their fluency. So when a child has successfully decoded a word several times, we start to be able to read it at a glance. They don't need to break it down anymore. So the best way to build up fluency is to read and read and read again of the same passage, the same text, the same story. And this is what children love anyway. They often want the same story again and again and again. And they want to listen to you read it again and again, and they want to join in. And when they become more familiar with stories and texts, that's when their fluency starts to build, and that's when their confidence starts to really grow. So if you have been reading with your child and they've been struggling through, they've been breaking down the words, you can pause, go back, and say, I'm going to read it this time, and then maybe shall we read it again together so we can make sure that we're having another go and we're trying to build that fluency. You modelling fluent reading is also really important for them to hear, so that they can hear what the words should sound like, how the story should flow, and it will help with their comprehension as well, so that they can, if you are individually breaking down words into sounds, you're not going to be understanding what that sentence is about. So going back, reading again, listening to you fluent readers is going to really help them. Then again, in the story room on the broom, even in picture books, there are always vocabulary opportunities. So pulling out key words that they may not have come across before. It talks about the dog with his thundering paws. Do we know what paws are? Thundering. What's thunder? Well, it makes a loud noise. So what does that mean about his paws? They're bounded, a dog. What sort of moving is bounding? Even in picture books, well-known, beloved picture books, there are so many vocabulary opportunities. But also in your everyday, just talking to your child, talking through the IPC, the Knowledge Organisers, there's loads of vocabulary. Talking to them about maths, there's lots of vocabulary. There are so many new words and opportunities in the world around them and what they do in school every day. Importantly, not just in English, but also in their home language. Every time that they learn a word in their home language, that can help them to make links with the words that they might learn in English or come across at school. Every opportunity, going to the zoo, baking a cake together, all of that is surrounded with language which is going to build their vocabulary. I've put a little note to myself here to say that it's always better in context. So again, avoiding flashcards, avoiding saying we're just going to learn vocabulary to do with animals today and I'm just going to show you a lot of flashcards. It's always better in context. If you're going to the zoo and pointing out animals, that's a much more rich learning experience than just showing a lot of pictures and hoping they memorize the words. Okay, supporting reasoning. The magic of might. Even if you are reading a story that you've read 17 million times before, you can always think of ways to make it new and fresh with the magic of might. What might they be thinking? What might they be feeling? Why might they be acting like this? Well, what might happen if they did this instead? Changing the story, getting them to think deeper about it, inferring about characters' thoughts and feelings. You can also model this by doing some sort of think alouds. Well, I think that she looked a little bit sad when she lost her hat. What do you think? What might she have been feeling? Okay. So getting them to think deeper than the words that are just on the page. And this can then also link to play. Okay, what might happen next after this story has finished? What might happen if that happened instead? Can we play that? Can we use some of your toys to see what might happen? And you can link that to your play and take those stories even further. Supporting structural knowledge is all about exposing children to different types of texts. So, for instance, in Year 2, they have recently been reading and writing a lot of recipes. So, showing your children some different recipes through lovely experiences at home, where you're pointing out ingredients lists, when you're pointing out the different steps, the numbered steps, that really helps to make links between their reading and their writing. In Year 3, they're soon going to be moving on to writing information text about volcanoes. So, showing them different information text that they might get from the library, talking about headings, subheadings, fact boxes, there's lots of maps and diagrams and labels. These are things that you find in those types of text, those types of books. Pointing out how we structure language in different ways for different genres of writing. That then helps them with making those links And with their reading, then they are able to find the information that they want to find much more easily. Then, comprehension monitoring. These are the strategies that children need to use if their comprehension has broken down. If they've got to the end of a passage of text and they've thought, oh, I had no idea what I've just read. Though sometimes children aren't the best at letting you know that they haven't understood what they've just read because they just want to carry on. But asking a child to summarize what they've just read, say, oh, let's pause there. What just happened on that page? Or, let's stop there. Could you tell me again what just happened? Could you use your toys to show me what happened in that story? You can also model. So what do you do when you find a word tricky, when you're reading something? Oh, well, when I'm finding a word tricky, I try to break it down into its sounds and syllables. And I look at if it's got any suffixes like shun, that can help me. And then I have another go. You can encourage your child to reread the tricky parts, and you can just ask them questions, check they've understood. So for children that are still developing their phonics and their fluency, comprehension is tricky. So you reading the text back to them can really, really help with this. Or if it's on their second or third try with that particular book, that's when things might start to really click for them. First time, they're just focusing on reading the words. Second time, they're getting more of the story. Third time, it's starting to click. They know what's going on. And that might be the time you start to see them really smile and go, oh, that means this. Okay, some final tips. So, reading at home. Try and make it a special quiet time. Trying to think of the time in your home routine which isn't rushed, where you can actually sit down and spend that quality time with them. Is that just before bed? Is that just after dinner? Is it before dinner? So, and try and think of a nice space for it as well, rather than somewhere where there's going to be lots of noise and chaos around. If they're feeling tired or unwell, it's okay if they don't read on that day. I know we say that reading every day for 15 to 20 minutes, but if they're feeling tired or sick, that's not the priority. Their well-being is always the priority. Showing curiosity in what they're reading and enjoyment. If you are reading to them, try and use those different voices. They love when we use different voices, teachers and parents. It shouldn't be a stressful experience. If they're feeling stressed, if they're really struggling, it might be time to pause, do something else, and maybe we can come back to this at another time. Again, well-being is the most important. Sometimes reading a story the whole way through without stopping is better, rather than thinking, I'm going to ask them some deep questions on every single page. Sometimes just reading the whole story the whole way through the first time, and then the next time you read it, try and start asking those questions, or else they might get a bit impatient with you, and they're like, come on, I want to see what's happening next. And don't feel like it's a bad thing that you're reading those favourite stories over and over again. Try to avoid going, oh no, not this one again. We've had that so many times. It's actually really, really beneficial for them. And each time they are getting more and more out of it. So don't be worried that they want the same one again and again. I know that we're over time, but I wanted to just point out some of the different books that we have that go home. So phonics books go home for reception and Key Stage 1, but also some children that still have phonics in Key Stage 2. They will have books that look like this, and then also the home readers that look like this on the right. In Key Stage 2, we still have some phonics books going home. Children also have access to the Oxford Reading Tree books, and then, of course, all of our classroom and school library books, which they can also take home. So we have a wide variety of books, which they are very welcome to take home. We encourage it. We very much want them to take them home. 1 second. So for Key Stage 1, Lots of the books in the library will have sounds in them that they might not have come across before. So the books from the library, we do recommend that you read those to your child. Yes, you might ask them to spot any special friends that they know, but often these books are full of sounds that they haven't come across yet, so they might find that very, very tricky to read themselves. All students go to the library every single week, and they choose a book to read for pleasure from there, including selections from their home languages, which we are slowly growing. For recording reading, in Key Stage 1 we have the reading diaries. Please don't feel like you have to write a comment in these. If you can just write the date and the title of the book that you've read with your child, that's really helpful for us to know. But if you want to write a comment, you could say how they read, were there any tricky words, tricky sounds. That's really helpful for us. And then from year 3 to year 6, they have the homeschooling diaries instead. We still encourage children to write the name of the book and the pages that they've read each day. And the reading reflection is now optional. It's no longer insisted on every week, but if your child wants to, or if you want to encourage them to, that is okay, and we will look at it. So that's an optional homework for them to do. Okay, I'm aware that we're a little bit over time, so I wanted to say thank you very much, everybody, for coming along, and happy reading.